Good Thursday evening, everyone, and welcome back to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano. We start tonight with new developments as the state changes plans for a new Hampden County Courthouse after toxic mold was discovered making people sick for years in the current building in downtown Springfield. Western Mass News reporter Reagan Lockery joins us live in studio after getting answers on the new path forward. Reagan.
Yeah, Chris, the state has decided to seek out a developer to build a new facility, which the government would then lease in order to relocate the Roderick Island Courthouse employees, instead of their original plan to build a new state-owned building. We're hearing from Governor Healy, Springfield Mayor Sarno, and one of the attorneys representing courthouse employees about this decision tonight. Western Mass News has been showing you the pictures since 2021. Dangerous and potentially deadly toxic mold discovered throughout the Roderick Island Courthouse in Springfield, making employees sick. The conditions in the building tied to cancer cases and other respiratory issues. A lawsuit followed, but courthouse employees in the Massachusetts trial court reached a settlement in 2022, and the state began looking into the feasibility of building a new courthouse. Co-counsel for those employees, Jeff Morneau, updated Western Mass News on how the employees he represents are doing as they still remain in the courthouse awaiting a new facility.
The plaintiffs are still suffering. They're holding up well, but they still want to see the progress with regard to the courthouse. They know that there's people in the courthouse that are continuing to get sick despite some minor improvements that have occurred since the settlement of the case.
And now this week, the state has decided to change their game plan for a new Hampden County Courthouse, which Governor Maura Healey confirmed to Western Mass News on Thursday.
What we're able to announce is that we're going to get a courthouse faster than was previously planned through an exciting opportunity that we're going to develop public-private partnerships.
We got more information from the state's Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, which oversees all state buildings. DCAM tells us instead of a state-owned building, they're looking for a builder to develop a new courthouse for the government to lease, which should shave off about 2 to 3 years from their original timeline. Morneau shares how the employees of the courthouse are feeling after hearing this news.
The immediate reaction was they were very excited.
And Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno tells Western Mass News this decision is a home run for the city.
They've decided, which is music to my ears, that they would look at the lease to build option, which fits in perfectly with the North Riverfront area that we have, and the developer, Mr. Picknelly, and his other partners there who have built courthouses in other parts of the state.
Mayor Sarno has been a constant advocate for the riverfront site for the courthouse, which was one of the original proposals. He said it would be a game changer for the city's north end.
When you look at it, the courthouse would be state-of-the-art. Would have a housing component, which is desperately needed here in the city and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And also you'd have secured parking, you'd have a mini marina, you'd have retail, public transportation.
However, it's not a done deal yet. Other developers will still have the opportunity to submit their proposals, and attorney Morneau tells me his clients are open to looking at all options. They are hoping to get a number of different proposals to pick from. And when all is said and done and a new courthouse has been built, Mayor Dominic Sarno tells me he would like to use the land where Roderick Island currently stands for further economic development in the city. Reporting live in studio, Reagan Lockery for Western Mass News.